Hello, I'm Everett Show. Welcome back to the world. Before we get into what I wanted to do today, I wanted to go over some of the stuff I've done while you guys have been away. Alright, so first things first, I have added the burning dice into the game. These are dice that have a set amount that they will move you, and at the end of, I think, every person's turn, they go down by 1. Any that go from 1 to 0 just turn into burnout, or residual material from a die. I'm gonna have that do something, not sure what yet. My initial idea was that it was food, but I've put this idea on the back burner for so long, I don't quite remember what all everything did, or what all the plans were. Really just a matter of I should be writing things down. The other thing I have is the frozen dice, which will have one number and stay at that number. Something else I've done, if I can just grab an iron block, and a redstone block will work too, is I've just removed all crafting recipes and added one. That's kind of stupid. It was just an example that I removed all of the vanilla recipes and can now add my own in, because I was thinking of adding in some crafting, but after thinking about it for a bit, maybe that would complicate things too much. This is meant to be a board game, and we've already got the scrap system. I don't really want to overcomplicate everything with too many mechanics for the players to focus on. Personally, I have problems when there are too many mechanics to focus on. Makes it difficult to play the game if there's too much for me to think about. Back in the basement, I have added a couple things. For a start, I did actually make it so that you can climb the pillar here, and I've added the pillar, patched up the holes, all of that good stuff. Admittedly, it is a bit difficult to climb this, especially if you're, say, using a controller. So the other thing I did is over in this pipe here, if you are in adventure mode, there is a hole down to the bottom, and this is going to be a loot chest. I've got a little lantern and some things holding it in place. But if you just fall, you end up at the top, just because I was actually having some trouble climbing up myself. And if you fall down this hole, you're back in the hall. So you can actually get back up if you're down in the basement. I gotta get back to the basement. Right. Currently, no way to get into the basement in survival without actually rolling the dice and going down there. Over here, I have 2 command blocks. One that kills any creeper nearby, and one that modifies the data of creepers. So if I just spawn one right now, and then kill it... Was this not on? Right. So if we spawn a creeper and kill it, it drops elytra and a rocket, both of which have scrap value. I figured out how to give mobs custom loot tables without actually changing the original loot table, which is something I was having trouble with in the first map that I released, which you probably don't have access to at the moment because I'm having problems with my web hosting. Bank seems to think it's a fraud, which it isn't. I've been using it for years. Anyways, getting off track. There's 2 things to note for the elytra and the rocket. First off, they each have the value of simple, which is not something you see on any other scrap. So they only have one actual value you can get them from. The other thing to note is with the rocket. So if I just use this, it actually turns into used gunpowder, which has the scrap notation of beyond perfect, and only has $100 on it, which is just a little joke that I found probably funnier than it actually is. Used gunpowder only ever has one value as well, so there is that. Anyways, up here, let me just switch into creative so I can show this a bit better. You'll notice I have put down some spaces for the game. You probably actually saw it in the bathroom when we were in there. I think I have everything in the board ready to put the spaces down, so I kind of need to do that. Initial plan for the maze in the library was to have unique books that you can get when you land on the pink spaces. And I was brainstorming different ideas for books you could find in here. I have House of Leaf Blocks, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Dimensions, Thief of Tick Speed, It Ravages, and How to Serve Villagers. Nice. These are all kind of meant to be parodies of different books that I own, with exception to this last one because I couldn't think of anything else. House of Leaf Blocks is a play on House of Leaves, which I have on my desk right now. Haven't finished it. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Dimensions is a play on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I actually have the series book, which has all 5 books in that series, but didn't know that that was actually a series of books, and is completely different from the movie, which someone actually did an explanation for that I will not get into right now because I am getting off track again. Thief of Tick Speed is meant to be a play off of Thief of Time, which is by Terry Pratchett, and was one of the first books I bought from Terry Pratchett and enjoyed it immensely because it has a lot of things I really enjoy. It Ravages is a play on It Devours, which is a book from the Welcome to Night Vale people. I would have originally done the Welcome to Night Vale novel as the title, but I couldn't think of how to make a play on it. And How to Serve Villagers is actually not based off of the title How to Serve Man, which is not a real book. It is a title from the Twilight Zone. So we go from horror to science fiction to fantasy to science fiction again to a horror book that does not even actually exist. I did notice that there was one spot down here that I had marked for a book, and I don't know if I'm gonna do that. But if I did do that, I'm thinking the book is going to be titled There Is No Library. That's not based off of any specific book, but I think it would be kind of unnerving to be going through this maze of a library and at the end you're giving a book that says it's not real. So what do all these changes mean when we add them together? Well, it means that I'm getting close to calling this board done. There's a handful of extra things I want to do before I call it done, but there's only a few things that I need to do at the moment. One is get all of the tiles down. I did put down all of the yellow and pink tiles. I have not put down any specific green tiles because I'm not sure what kind of events I want to happen, although I have ideas. And those ideas are based off of the stuff in the basement, specifically giving mobs unique loot tables, which makes me think of adding in enemies you can fight here, and, importantly, a boss fight. When I wrote one of the stories for this, when I was writing stories for this area, I realized that I made it sound like this area was dangerous, but never explained why. Now, there's a couple things that can make something dangerous. One is it can be hazardous to your sense of self. It can make you a different person. And whether or not that is dangerous is an existential question up for debate that I am not equipped to answer at the moment. But if it makes you someone who you never thought you would be, if it makes it someone who you aren't, if it does that against your will, that might be considered dangerous, because you are losing your sense of self, and the self that you are is essentially dead. The other thing that could make it dangerous would be, things that could actually end up killing you. Monsters, traps, things like that. So I thought maybe some of the events that happen, maybe some of the stuff that happens would be spawning monsters, things that attack you and you fight. Two issues with this. First one is, if we do that, we need to add weapons. And not interested in adding weapons, but I'm thinking, if I want to add a boss fight, what else am I supposed to do, If I choose... The other problem is, if I choose not to do weapons, how do I handle that then? You could, in theory, use dice you have collected to roll for random damage, dealing it to the enemies, but if we do random enemies, that would mean that I would need to code in a combat system, which sounds long and tedious, and I am not in the mood for that at all. So, what do we do here? I'm thinking just add in weapons. Honestly, that is the fastest route to get where I want to be. But aside from that, I just need to add in all of the blue and orange spaces and figure out things to do for events. I am going to take some time to figure out how I want to do these tiles because of a change I made. Originally, the coin system in this game was that you could get iron coins, you could get gold coins, and they would cancel each other out, and I changed it to get rid of that. That is not a thing anymore. You can collect iron, you can collect gold. They won't cancel out, and they will be used to buy different things in the stores. But that does bring up an interesting question of how do we distribute those spaces? If we want there to be a lot of, how do I put this? If we want to make it difficult for players to buy something, then in the original system, you would make it so that there's an equal number of blue and orange tiles, so that the coins would kind of, in the long run, cancel each other out. In this new system, if you want people to buy something, I can just turn down the maximum amount of coins you can get in the board. As it stands right now, there are a few objectives in the game, but the two important ones are coin minimum and coin maximum. For each board, I am specifying a minimum and maximum amount of coins you can get by landing on each tile, because you can do that in loot tables. It's all based off of loot tables. So if I want to make it difficult for you to buy things here, then I just crank down the maximum, crank down the minimum. The average number of coins you get is very low. And the reason we would want to do that is to increase feelings of helplessness in this board. This is kind of meant to be a horror board, unlike the other ones, which are the closest I, as someone who kind of leans towards horror unconsciously can do. As far away from horror as someone who does that can do. So one of the trademarks of horror is the feeling of helplessness. There is this big monstrous thing and there is nothing you can do to fight it. That is horrific because you are in a situation you can't deal with that is emotionally troubling. However, since this is a game, we don't want the players to feel too helpless because that would make them not want to come back to play the game. It needs to feel difficult, but not difficult enough to make you want to quit. And that is the delicate balance I need to strike when planning this out. So what I'm going to do, right, it is Saturday for me. I don't know what time or day it is for you. So I'm going to stop playing, even though I've literally just started for the first time in 2 weeks. And I'm going to take some time to mull over what the best thing to do in this situation is, partly because I do want to figure out a good balance for feeling helpless and being able to do something about the situation you're in, and because I really want to keep putting off the tiles, because it is so... I made a tool specifically for doing this, there is literally a tool called Next Position that helps me set all of this up, and doing it is still so tedious. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Each individual space has 2 different command blocks that need to be configured, one for the next space you're going to, and I think it's just one for the next space you're going to. And if it is a pink, a red, or a green block, it needs the event it's going to do, which needs to be written up as a separate file in the data pack, and the yellow ones need each optional path to take put into a separate command block. It is so tedious. This is going to be the longest it takes for me to do something just because of how tedious I've done this for myself. And this is actually the least tedious thing I could do for this, because there's a couple things I could have done when I initially started doing this. I could have put every single possible place you go to based on the position you're in into a single function file and then have it run for each player, or I could have each space hold the position it moves you to in command blocks and have it operate based on whenever there's a player on top of it. There was a new thing that came out while I was working on this, where you can actually put data into entities. So I could put markers on each tile to tell you where to go and then run a function based off of that data. Because now we have something called macros, which are basically actual functions you can pass variables into. But it is a little too late for that. Yeah. I've been talking for so long, this is going to take up the majority of the video. I don't know how I'm going to edit this down. Anyways, I'm going to go and do some planning, and I will come back to you guys when I come back to you guys. Okay, I need to do this now because it's been a week and I haven't done any updates, and I've just been screwing around with texture packs and stuff. So let me update you on what I've done. The fastest and easiest thing I did was put in all of the spaces for the board game. The kitchen is going to be mostly blue, and the library is going to be mostly orange. It's easier to see on the inside of the maze, but that also has pink spaces, so yeah. Haven't put down any green spaces. I will maybe get around to that eventually. But the other big feature of this map is weapons. You can buy weapons from the librarian, and you can get them in the loot. If I just give myself one really quick. Ah, here it is. You can get swords, haven't put in the axes yet, and I am going to put in unique items for things like tridents, maces, shields, bows, and arrows. Haven't got around to that yet. Swords were kind of a proof of concept to figure out how I wanted to do the thing. Each unique thing is going to get its own table, so swords will get their own, axes will get their own, and all that miscellaneous stuff will get its own. Since I have all of the spaces down, all I need to do is hook them up to their respective next spaces. I even have the start set up so that you can actually go in and potentially start playing the game. But there is a small problem with the game currently. These yellow spaces are meant to be multi-directional things. You can choose to go one way or you can choose to go the other. Now, it used to be that you would go in your chat and you would click on which option you want to do. That is not an option anymore. Mojang made it so that you can't, so that when you run a command through a text component, the game will prompt you to see if you want to run that by showing you the command that you're trying to run. And that makes for very not smooth gameplay. So I am doing an experiment down here. I'm setting it up so that there will be loading options. One for one direction, one for the other, preferably pointing in the direction you're going to go. Now, the main problem with this is that it takes 2 command blocks for each direction, and right now, this thing is just packed with command blocks, and I want to be able to narrow it down a little bit. Now that we have functions and macros, maybe I could. But this does also mean that if I redo this, I need to redo all of the multi-directional spaces in the entire game, which I'm not entirely sure how many there are, but there are at least 3 in the first one, and a lot more, like 5, in the second one. This one has so many, but they're not set up yet, so it's fine. I still want to do boss fights. Haven't gotten around to exactly how I want to do that because I've been distracting myself, but boss fights are a thing, and this is going to be the skull of the, board boss. It is my skull, because how else am I going to make a custom head? And it is meant to look like a guy whose head is made of paper, and I think I pulled that off really well. Or he just looks like he has a weird skin condition. I'll work on it. So all those other features are nice, but the main thing that I really need to work on are these. These need to be done so that everything else is functional. And I'm almost done with that, maybe, I think? I don't know. It's complicated. It requires a rewrite of basically everything I have for all of the spaces. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. Okay, it is the next day. It's very early in the morning, so I apologize for morning voice or stuff. But I have solved the yellow tile issue. And it brought the, 8 command blocks down to 3, which is fantastic. That's so much easier to deal with. I am a bit worried about lag from having all of the ticking command blocks, but whatever. So when you land on a yellow spot and you are moving, it will remove the moving tag and give you the paused tag, which you can see down here. And when you have that tag, it will give you two choices, but you can do more than that with this new system. And when you right-click on a choice, it will take you to that position, in this case the hub, and also give you the moving tag back. Okay, so now that this is done... Oh yeah, the choices delete themselves when other people get near. Now that this is done, I just need to take this, incorporate it into the yellow tile saved up there, and then just replace this with every other yellow tile in the game. So this is my little, what do I call this? Let's say workshop for editing the tiles. And I've already replaced the yellow one. And while I was over here, I realized that this extra yellow tile here can be removed, because this was meant to be the conditional yellow tile. And with the new yellow tile, the conditional can be fit into the command blocks that are in there, so this can just be gotten rid of. Don't need it anymore. And there we go. Now that we have all of the tiles done, let's talk about the boss fights. Or just spawning mobs in general. So I have set up a special command somewhere in here that will take my inventory and put it into this armor stand as data. So I've got armor, offhand, main hand, mob, name, and loot table. And if I run this command at us, yeah, there we go. So we summon a little monster that people can fight. And even if I take all of this stuff off, which I am going to because I look ridiculous, and we run the command again, it still comes up with the same stuff. And that is because all of the data is stored in the armor stand. Now there's two problems with the system at the moment. For one, still need to work on the head. For two, I don't have a way to modify the entity's attributes, aside from, like, what they're wearing. That kind of needs to be done separately. To make a unique boss fight, I can't just put random items on a skeleton, give it a name, and call it good. It needs to have something unique to it, like a lot of health, a lot of strength, maybe it's really fast. And those are all things you can change using attributes. This is a command that you can even run on players that can change how the entity is handled. Like, for example, if I wanted to change my scale and add a modifier to make me very small. Suddenly, I am very small. I need to be able to do that to entities. And off the top of my head, I don't have a system for this. I could add modifiers to the command that makes the mobs, or I could make it a separate thing that only works for boss mobs. I'm unsure. It's something I have to work on. But we do have a solid proof of concept down, so that is a good thing. Alright, I think I have the boss fight all set up, and everything is ready to go. But to make sure everything is working properly, I actually need to start the board game for the manor. Right. Looks like all of the numbers are good. If I go to your space, it brings me here. And when I roll, I get a 3. So we're going to go kitchen side, we're going to go upstairs, and we end in here. End turn. Cool. Go to my space, we're at the same spot. Alright, roll the dice. Nearly there. I really need to add more minigames to this thing. There we go. Right. Alright. Perfect. So if I go to my space, yes. Okay. Cool. But it looks like it didn't work. So what went wrong? Okay, so there is a command. This is the command that is supposed to run when you hit the red space up top that drops you down here. Unfortunately, while it does seem to work in my command line, it doesn't seem to work in the function that it's in. So let's see what's wrong with the function really quick. Okay, so I do want to talk about the boss that we can summon, but the reason that the mob was not spawned when we were up there is because it was... I think it just despawned or something, which is wild because it has a custom name. It's not supposed to despawn like that. But it's also entirely possible that the armor stand to load the entity is not being loaded. So what if I just run a force load command? Huh? Wait a second. Oh. What? Okay, so it's, so force loading, it seems, doesn't work. Which is good to know. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. There he is. Okay, turns out there's just a tag you can give entities to make them not despawn. I don't know why this name tagged entity was not was despawning. But it was, so yeah. Anyways, let's talk about boss fights and how this isn't a good one. So, the thing about boss fights is that they're meant to be a test, a culmination of everything you've learned in one single little fight. So this guy, you would think, would be a test of everything you've learned in the manor. Except, what are you learning in the manor? It's a board game. You fight this guy with a sword. So, obviously, there are exceptions to the boss fights are a test of your skills thing. They can also be a test of your equipment, of like in a roguelike, looking at the game Loop Hero. The final boss on each of your loops is simply just a test of how good your setup is. So in that case, if we go by the definition of a test of your setup, that's what this boss could be. However, if I just go into adventure mode, just get him in the water, and you win. Probably didn't even need a netherite sword. I could have just used my hand if I had the patience for it. So that's a problem. Okay, so I think I have this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the flush command, and I'm going to see if I can survive fighting the boss with basically nothing. This is not a good test because I am objectively bad at fighting in Minecraft. I am a builder, not a fighter. We'll see what happens, I suppose. Got end turn thing. Got some diamond boots with depth strider. Let's see if I can cheese this guy. Now you can really only survive 3 hits without any armor. Because with the netherite sword, he kind of hits hard. And his shield doesn't actually do anything. I am getting spawn camped. I'm getting spawn camped. I'm getting spawn camped. Okay. Okay. This is... I'm running. Okay. So, maybe you can't, actually cheese him. I was killed a lot there. I was killed quite a bit. Oh, that's so cool. Nice. Right, so with the boss fight done, what else is there really left to do? Well, I need to add the effects for all of the library books in the game, and I need to add events to the map. See, right now, the only really interesting thing that happens in this map is the boss fight at the bottom and any mobs that might spawn. Other than that, this is a pretty mundane board. Like, there's no special effects, there's no, So like, in the Chest City thing, some of the pieces will move. There's people, or statues that look like people wandering around, and it's like a big city you can explore, even if it doesn't seem like there's a lot there. The tutorial map is literally just there to show you how to play the game, but there are little secrets and stuff you can look through to you know, incite exploration. Here, there's not a lot. Sure, there's some stuff on top of the bookshelves in the library, but other than that, there isn't a whole lot around here to explore. And there aren't a whole lot of events that could happen here. In fact, now that I think about it, there's only one actual event tile in all of the boards, and it is in... No, there's a couple, actually, now that I think about it. There's one, there's two in the tutorial board, and in the Chest City board, there is approximately 0 that I can remember, which means I'm very much underutilizing event spaces. So, I need to add some to here. Otherwise, what is the point of that? So, got some stuff to figure out. But I think that's all the time I have for this episode. It feels like it's getting pretty long. The board is not done yet, but boy, are we getting close. Like, it's almost done. All of the tiles are linked up. The yellow tiles each point in different directions, and I did actually remember to change all of the ones in previous boards, so that's good. And yeah, like, if I wanted to, I could, in theory, just play through this map. I don't think I could successfully win the game because the win condition is defeating the boss, and I don't think I have that coded in yet. Not sure, have to check. I'm assuming I don't. But otherwise, this board is just done. It needs some fine-tuning, but aside from not having an end, you can play this. So, yeah, if you like the video, leave a like. If you want to leave... Let's try that again, Matthew. Right, so if you like the video, go ahead and leave a like. Maybe leave a comment suggesting some ideas. Oh god, there's a dog here interrupting me. Alright, if you like the video, leave a like. Maybe leave a comment about some ideas I could use for some of the books. I have a couple ideas of my own, but none of them are really complete. Maybe some events that I could throw in here, and dang it, now there's a cat in front of my screen. Oh my god.